We want to talk about challenges in cooperation between academic and industry in the data science field today. So maybe, Alexei, can you talk to us your opinion about this topic, about challenges which appears when academic try to collaborate with industry?
Thank you, Andrei. So this is an exciting question, and we're starting actually from the second one because we chat with Andrei beforehand in advance, and we understand that topic about DS education in Ukraine probably is not so interesting specifically for our guests. But it's much more interesting to talk about how to manage a bridge between the industry and academia, specifically in Ukraine, because all of you guys know what status of our universities. They struggle with financing and etc., etc., etc. So that's a big question, and but we have, from our experience in the UCU, in Ukrainian Catholic University, at least one answer for that question. We started our program 2 years ago, in 2016. We attracted first 12 students, and after that, 3 of them graduated. Actually, 2 of them are here in this conference, and there was remarkable result after that graduation. So Mykola Mikhailovich is one of participants here, and Orest Kupen and another third student from the next cohort of the new freshmen. Under the supervision of Dmitro Mishkin, I think he's quite familiar to the audience, specifically for Ukrainian community in DS. So they prepare a research paper on computer vision. It was about GAN for the blur tasks. And they proposed it for CVPR conference, topmost conference in computer vision. And so everything was successful. They applied, they were accepted. But there was a remarkable thing. So Jan Likan, he just reposted the GitHub repository of Orest. And it was like tremendous effect for the Orest career and the next path for the Orest employee at this moment. So it was a Lviv-based company, Alex, and at that moment they, after that activities, when so much attraction was to this paper, they gained really interesting projects from other companies. So they attracted new customers. And the projects they attracted was of another level of the experience, of complexity. So people abroad, from international perspective, they started to understand that there is something interesting going on in Ukraine, specifically in Lviv in our case. That you can come, you can ask for experienced researchers to make something more meaningful and to go deeper for research. And so why I'm talking so long about this? Because when we started 2 years ago, we approached companies and asked them, so hey, we try to make a new quality education here in Ukraine, give us money, we will give this money to like a scholarship to the students who cannot afford to pay for themselves. But right now, we see that we can establish these bridges between companies and academia, specifically with our university. So we approached companies, we showed this case of Orest and his teammates, and show them you can bring your projects, give these projects to our supervisors, to our lecturers, professors, to our students. They can make POC, proof of concept, give you back, and you can show this POC to your customers, and then you can run like multiple iterations, etc. So this one example, in my opinion, it shows that we can like establish strong collaboration in this way.
Thank you, Alexei. Please, Sergey, what can you maybe say from your experience with work in academy and industry?
Okay, so uh, in my experience, and I have been teaching in St. Petersburg for at least 15 years, and I have seen many projects, many educational initiatives rise and fall over these years. And I can say that the main difficulty, the main point of disagreement between industry and academy usually is that the industry, the companies who come in and who come in with open hands and who want to actually support the academy and support education, they view it as basically as a pool of future hires, right? They view it as a way to teach the very specific things that people might need on the job in this company or in similar companies, but that's not the right way to approach education, okay? So, for example, we skipped the first question, but if you want to teach data science, you don't teach data science, okay? You teach mathematics. And if you want to teach machine learning, you teach calculus, you teach probability theory, you teach actually algebra, you teach all the fields of mathematics, and then after, say, a bachelor's in mathematics, a person would be much more qualified, it would be much easier for him or her to actually, just take a couple of courses on specifically Bayesian inference, specifically deep learning, and then just get up to speed on this. So the purpose of education, especially the purpose of fundamental education at universities, is not to give you marketable skills, okay? The purpose is to teach you to think. The purpose is to teach you to acquire these marketable skills, because there is no way that in the modern world you can learn in 5 years everything you're going to need in your life. And then, once you have this background in abstract thinking and mathematics and physics and whatever field you're in, then you can specialize, then you can do applied research, then you can specialize from applied research to jobs in the industry, and it will be much easier for you. And it will you will actually do more and you will do better. So to come back to the original question, whenever I saw these various initiatives supported by different companies, the most successful initiatives and the most long-standing and the ones who produced the best students have always been the initiatives where the company just let academy people do what they wanted. And I understand it's hard, and I understand it's hard to just blindly give money and trust that it's for the better, but in my experience, it has always been for the better.
Yeah, thank you, Sergey. Please, Jerome, what do you think from your experience in industry, in education in other countries than post-Soviet countries about this question?
Yes, I think to work it has to be a win-win situation between industry and academia, for example. So yeah, in France, for example, it's possible to do your PhD in companies. So you are paid by the companies, and they let you. Yeah, you can spend half of the time in the university, for example. They let you the time to write your dissertation, and for them, yeah, what they gain from this is that they can try experimental stuff, like things that you wouldn't try, yeah, because students, you pay less for a student than for a normal worker. So you can try, you can take more risks.
Okay.
So I know that this kind of things works in France and in Europe.
Okay.
And after I agree that the company has to let the professors take care of the student and trust. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jerome. Dmitry, can you maybe say to us something about cooperation between researchers and industry, maybe some research project related with industry from your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I just gave a talk about a project that we had in the university with a company called PerkinElmer. So basically, just fresh memories. I do agree with Sergey about trusting for good. We have a perfect collaboration because company doesn't really just gave money and said do something cool, and then they provided somebody who actually supervises and helps us to know what is cool. So we kind of know what is cool for a company, and then we know what is cool for us. We kind of know what kind of journals publish stuff. So I do agree that this kind seemed to be the best mixture because we both, us and the company, want best. As for students, I think we had this discussion here about how to somehow keep the students inside academia but still being kind of happy with being partially involved to industry. Because, for example, at the University of Tartu we have this partial master and bachelor thesis that you can write your thesis being somehow the student but working for a company at the same time. So it's been quite a success, I think, on our side. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, I think.
Thank you, Dmitry. So if we want to say one sentence, in one sentence, what is the reason of success or problem in cooperation between academia and industry, what will you choose if you should choose only one sentence about this problem? Can you say this in...
For success, you mean?
Yes, for success.
Cheap workforce. An intelligent, cheap workforce.
Okay, thank you. So the next question of our discussion is about brain drain from academia to industry. Sergey, what can you say about this problem when academics go to work to industry? Is it good or bad or cool? What do you think?
What problem? What
or
is
just
the problem?
normal?
I really don't view it as a problem. I mean, a person can choose what he or she wants to work on. So why is it a problem if a person decides to change an employer?
Okay, but who will teach the students?
The underlying problem which you're actually driving at is not the problem that some people prefer to teach and some people prefer to work in the industry. It's the problem that maybe in some countries it is much more lucrative to work in the industry than to teach at the universities, and that is the problem. I mean, it's not a problem if a person chooses what his heart desires. It's a problem if there is such a strong bias in one direction.
And even more, probably not only in post-Soviet country, this problem exists. It exists in other countries too. So, what can we do to prevent this situation? To make salary higher, or maybe?
Kind of yes, kind of yes. So actually, the academic life has a lot of benefits. So I mean, you don't go to work every day. You have very free schedules, except for the lectures. Of course, you have a lot of freedom, and you have primarily you have the freedom to pursue what you want. And you have the freedom to work on the problems that you want to work on. So actually it's okay if the salary is a bit lower, but it still should be sufficient to support a family. And once you hit this threshold, I'm pretty sure that good people will stay in academia. I have seen it happen.
Okay, thank you.
I'm one of these.
Yes.
So it seems that we're not talking about Ukraine, guys. So the gap between salaries in academia and the gap between salaries in industry is tremendous here. So here we have like a huge problem. We discussed with several academic representatives in the conference that it's really a headache for us to find the proper lecturers, professors for our courses. And like we're looking for the set of possible persons whom we can approach, who have specific skills, who can teach, who are experienced, who stayed on the edge of the topic, it's like
yeah, but the researchers should lecture if you want the bleeding edge parts. I mean, maybe when we are talking about like bachelor courses for the first couple of years, then you should choose the better educators. But if you are talking about master's courses, PhD courses, where people teach bleeding edge research, they should be bleeding edge researchers. It's
in the companies, right? And I think UCU has done that in many cases. I mean, my students from UCU says that people from companies.
So we attract people from companies, but they are not full-time professors, and that's a problem. You cannot. So there is another like. So we try to find this path.
But why is it a problem?
It's much easier when you're living in an established country with good economy, that you have enough enough money from grants, and you can sit in academy.
I mean, sorry. Why is it a problem that a person is only half-time teaching, part-time teaching?
Because it's a second or even third priority. If that person has, I don't know, business trip, emergent deadlines or whatever, so students will have no teacher in the class.
Well, yeah, I'm supposed to have 4 lectures today, but it's true. And I get that point, but it's really a minor point. I mean,
from perspective of academic program director, it's not minor.
Okay, maybe Jerome, what do you think about successful examples of cooperation between academy and industry?
Yeah, so I think I already answered this question, right? Like doing a PhD is kind of good examples.
It's when somebody do a PhD and this PhD created during work in academy. Yes, you about this? You are talking about this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, but if we talk about large companies, we can see cooperation between academy and industry, when people from academy creating new interesting things which implemented in industry. What do you think about this topic? When research which done in academy implemented in industry?
You mean when they took it and they don't give something back?
It took it and give something back to university. Do you know these cases? Or maybe you know?
If they give something back, yeah, it's also good cooperation. Yeah, of course, if the company is giving some projects to the university with some grants. And
some grants which sponsor researchers, which education and academic work, it's not only teaching, it's research work too.
To buy GPU also, it's not about people, but also the material needed to perform the research.
Yes, I hear about some programs, for example, from NVIDIA, from Facebook, which make grants for researchers, and maybe in Wolfram Incorporated there is some research programs.
Yeah, in Wolfram it's a bit different. They are cooperating, yes, with university, and yeah, it's a bit different. Like, yeah, there are some professors using our tool to teach. And then there are things like this also.
So programs how related with teaching?
Yeah, and in this case they are not granting but offering license, this kind of stuff. Because yeah, for Wolfram it's also good if people use Mathematica like we want it. So
yes,
that's why it's important for them to be in the university to
yes,
plant the seed of the future users also. So it's also another case you write on.
Okay. Thank you. May I interject here? Yes. Just to go back to this point, I apologize. Now that I think thought a bit more about your question about the interrelation between the industry and the academy, I actually think it's the wrong question to ask. Okay. So I mean, and here is the maybe rallying cry for the people who are here. There should not be a dividing line between the academy and the industry. I mean, you introduced me as the Chief Research Officer of Neuromation and the head of a laboratory head from the Steglov Mathematical Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences. So where am I from? Am I from the industry? Am I from the academia? there is no either or here. And those, I don't know, managers from the industry, if your people want to go teach a course in the academia, that's great. Academic program heads, if your employees want to take up a half-time job in the industry, that's great. It's actually a boon, a benefit for their teaching and for their research work rather than the other way around. And so I don't want to see this line. I think this line should be blurred.
Okay.
I think I do agree. Plus, I think that the best cases that I can see right now are the hybrids. So the people that are actually both in the academia and the company, like
the
cyborgs, like Jan LeCun and Rus. We just saw the Ruslan by himself, and I said he as well, and so on and so forth, right?
Yes.
So should we create more people like this?
Absolutely.
They will be created. I think that's a natural process.
Yes, probably you heard about dual form of education when students work in company and study in university. What do you think about this form probably for data science when they working part-time and educated full-time? What do you think about this form of education?
I think it doesn't really work. I mean, the education part doesn't really work because company gives money, and I mean, you're just afraid of not doing what company asks you to do. And if you are a student, then it's a very crucial that what company asks you to do is basically the same that you need to do to survive in a university. So at least in our case, we were the most successful in merging these two needs together, somehow marrying this together, so that students would have to do something that company required them to do for university. So somehow putting this back together. And when you are a PhD student or you're a researcher, then you can actually manage your time more wisely because, well, you could do this trick yourself. You don't need anybody else to do this trick for yourself. You could manage these things so that what you do and what's required is the same thing. But students need external help for this.
Okay. But in our case, so we started the program specifically understanding that in Ukraine, if you have master students, they just work their full-time job and just coming to exam session to pass the exam, and that's it. So we understand it's like a law of gravity. So you cannot fight against gravity. You starting to think what you can do on using this law of gravity. So we started the program full understanding that our students will have full-time jobs. For that reason, we have specific schedule. We have different things.
That's a different mindset. It's like you know that this will be there. This is a requirement, so you have to kind of adapt for this.
I think you should not lump these two together. So I honestly believe that there must be a time in the life of every person when this person is being educated full time. Okay, and there are things, there are programs, there are I don't know, bachelor programs, master programs, where you just cannot have a full-time job on the side. But not all of them have to be like that. And of course, once you have been educated, once you have this basic level of, I don't know, math, science, whatever, then of course you can educate yourself in your own free time, or you can visit courses, or you can take up a second master's and just come for the exams. But if we are talking about a serious master's program, probably it should be impossible to just come up for the exams. Right?
Yeah, but okay, I will not fight against this. It's totally okay, and but we need to understand the current status. So in most cases, like in 100%, smart students, they go to the market, they work in the topmost companies, and so what? So how you can have them in the classroom?
Well, but if they, for example, I don't know, in the third year of their university studies, go out to work in a company, there are only two possibilities. Either the education is not very intensive, or they are not as smart as they seem.
Okay.
Maybe we are talking about some kind of balance between educational work and work in industry, and the question hard to find this balance. Question is how to change our education programs to find this balance. Sergey, it's maybe a question for you.
Again, I'm not against this form of education. So it is absolutely fine for a person working full-time in a company to come in for an educational program. It's absolutely perfectly fine. I'm just saying that sometime in the past, this person must have been educated full-time. Otherwise, I just don't believe he has a very good education.
Yes. Okay. And from this question, we go to the next question. Is it really need to receive a PhD degree when you are already working in industry?
I might ask you another question. Does it make sense to receive PhD degree at overall? I mean, it doesn't really strike me as an obvious answer. When you're working in the company, what does it change? You can still decide that, yeah, I'd like to do some more of a, science thing. And then, come to, we have plenty of these examples coming to PhD that said that, well, I had done enough. My work wasn't very inspiring to some extent, right? So I wanna update myself so that when I come back to my company or come to some other company, I would be working on more challenging things. Or moreover, I could just decide to stay here and do science overall. So I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. What do you think, Sergey?
Oh yeah, you absolutely should get a PhD, because when a Korean investor will come to your company, the only question he will ask will be, how many PhDs do you have? Do you have 10 PhDs? Okay, we buy your company.
Thank you. Alexei, what is your opinion?
I just skip.
Okay. Jerome, do you want to add something, or just skip this question?
Everyone is free to do a PhD or not.
Okay, yes. You are just talking about PhD, that you can receive PhD.
Actually, I'm working towards my PhD, so this is basically a radical version of my own opinion, but I'm trying to be nice and play polite and say, no, but it's different cases and stuff. So yeah, of course, I'm also for a PhD.
Okay, thank you. Now we have time for a question from the auditory. Please. Yes, maybe some microphone. Okay.
I'm Lena, and my question is, do we have some practical benefits of getting PhD in Ukraine specifically?
Okay, it's
probably it's for Alexei. I don't know.
I do not know anything about PhD in Ukraine. I have no PhD in Ukraine. I have no PhD at all. So, anyway, Andrei, you have PhD in Ukraine. Please answer.
Okay, I just received PhD almost 1 year ago in Ukraine, in Nure, and my answer for the last question was yes, you should receive a PhD.
I don't ask if I should receive. I mean, what benefits?
What benefits?
Why, Andrei? Why?
Okay, as for me, it's just
feeling better.
increasing of level of education of myself. It's feel like challenge. I should make this challenge. I should do it. It's for me. It's feel like a challenge, and I did this challenge.
And you can brag.
Maybe if you ask me about salary, does it increase my level of salary, or does it increase the level of abilities to find a job? Yes, it increases ability to find a job for me. It opens for me ability to teach people, because if you have a PhD degree, you have ability to teach. You can go to university and to be a teacher. I like teaching, so I need a PhD. If you ask me, does industry really need a PhD? I will answer you. Industry need researchers, not the papers or diplomas. Industry need researchers. PhD, it's a good way to become a researcher. It's my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
It's amazing. So many hands on education.
Sergey, it's not question, it's just point from one of students. You say that in life must be period when you full-time studying and work, and it must be different time. But unfortunately, world isn't perfect. I mean, there mustn't be any...
No, but I'm sure there was a period in your life when you were studying full-time. I'm sure. Think kindergarten.
Unfortunately, no. All time when I was in university, in Lviv Polytechnic, I was working.
Oh, okay, but before that, high school?
I started
kindergarten.
So you see, that's a very
No, it was
idea.
period, yeah, was when I wasn't working. But it's not important. I mean, there mustn't be any wars in world, but they are. And world isn't perfect. And just what I want to say is that it's better than nothing. It's maybe it isn't perfect approach, but it's better than having any good master degree in data science at all.
Oh, I agree.
It's my
Of course.
point. Thanks.
Thank you for the discussion, very interesting. Wanted to ask you about organization like commercial organizations that just do research full time. And two examples are OpenAI, for example, that pays quite a lot of money to researchers. There was a recent article in Bloomberg. And another one, for example, DeepMind, which reported this year losses of 400 million. Is it a sustainable approach? And what do you think about that? Can it be like larger than now? And like, what's your thought?
Losing $400 million a year is not a sustainable approach.
Moreover, I think they were not meant for being sustainable. I mean, OpenAI has been an initiative to actually, come up with this kind of technologies to balance out, to spread out the knowledge and so on and so forth. Plus, they do have engineers in the company, so they're not just researchers, there are the scholars plus researchers. So I think they were not meant to be sustainable.
I think of both of these companies as research institutions. I think they're non-profit, whatever their charter says, and I think we should treat them as a research institution.
Okay, next question.
Yes, I have a question. I have studied in university for 6 years, and I
Right.
now pretty sure that at least 3 years of that my bright years was actually wasted totally. I should leave it at least 3 years earlier. So that's the question. How to understand for the students that you should run, not still was in this swamp and degrade.
You should need to decide for yourself, so it's like a personal decision.
Yeah, that is actually a very, very serious question, and I agree wholeheartedly, and I'm very sorry we cannot give you your years of life back. And unfortunately, there is just no way. And for example, this has always been my argument against this relatively novel trend of letting students choose their courses for themselves. Because how can you make an educational plan for yourself when you're 15, when you're 18? It's impossible. Even the brightest cannot do it. And this is a similar question. So I would say the only way to understand that you're in a good place is reputation, the level of graduates, the level of alumni from this institution. How else? The level of your professors.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Next question.
Nowadays in Ukraine there are many ways to make yourself a career by leaving university at second, third course or bypassing it at all. How do you think will this approach do students any good, and will you yourself work with or employ a student man with no higher grade at all?
We hire such students.
Would I hire a person without formal education? Of course. I mean, it's not a question of having a piece of paper.
I think it depends on responsibility of the student, or not the student, of this worker. And it may be more about level of skills and talent of this candidate to work. If the skills are high and this man is talented, so no problem, it's no problem.
One point like for taking a university degree is that university is not only about education actually. So in university you find your first partners of in future companies, your first employees, and etc. etc.
Also in companies.
Huh?
You can find them also in companies.
Yeah, but yeah, it's true. Okay, but again, if you like, when we take this part from Sergei, when you have full time in university and you 18, 19, 20, and there is time to like travel, see around, and I don't know. So taking some part of entertainment in the university, taking more free time. It's also about socializing. So I think it's, from my personal view, it's better to find, actually to try university life.
You're right that you hang out more often in university than in industry.
Just wanted to comment on the part of the question where you ask whether it makes sense to drop out from university after the second year or third year, whatever, what have you. I think you should be, well, as much as there was this now discussion whether 15 years old or 17 years old can choose for themselves, can know for themselves what is best. I think you should be operating in the environment with as much information as you have, with as much skills as you have. If you see that this is the best way for you in this current setting, probably that's the best way to do. But I don't think it's some kind of silver bullet that if you have finished 4 years, then it's the best way in all sorts of cases. It's probably not true.
Also, what is your probable motivation for dropping out? You probably think that the university has nothing more to teach you, right? So maybe you're right. Maybe it's a bad university. Why not try transferring to a better one?
Yeah, and, it would be much more better if university will allow you to go to the industry, have a gap year, go back to the second grade or third grade where you stopped and go first, and then. So actually there are movement towards this. For instance, we have this, like how we call it? So when you can gain credits working in industry.
It's also called academic leave, I think. We have it as academic leave. You just basically say, I quit for a year, I'm just fed up with you guys.
Not leave, but dual form of, maybe dual form education when you receive credits on in industry.
Yeah, so you gain credits in your company. So you work in a company and gain credits, and it's like you study working in a company.
I think you wouldn't want to drop out from this university. I wouldn't.
Okay. Maybe next question, if it exists. Okay.
Hello, my name is Sergei. My question is, if you have a concrete plan, what you want to learn, with what technology you want to work, but you haven't appropriate skills, which way is best? Is it learning it by yourself and then try to find work, or I just don't know.
What's the best way of learning new things?
Second way is to find the company when you can work from with zero skills. When you will research it in the work.
Learn by doing, basically.
Sorry?
You mean learn by doing. So one approach is learn by doing, and the other approach is go through this online courses and whatever have you. do the formal education parts. So you're asking to compare these two.
Oh, yeah. So. Okay.
I actually, I mean, maybe I misunderstood the question, but I actually feel very strongly about what you began with. You started with your question with, suppose I know what technology I want to work with. Well, the answer is you can't. Okay? There is no way now to know what technology you're gonna want to work with 5 years from today. There is no way to know what technology you want to work with 10 years from today. So the correct answer would be to get a good formal education, which will prepare you for further learning all the new technologies that will appear undoubtedly throughout your life. And yeah, that's what I would recommend.
I would just change that to say, well, maybe not just formal education, but just learn to learn things.
Yeah, that's what education means. Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. It's what it's supposed to do. That's what it's supposed to do.
Hi. For now, there are lots of online courses or part-time academies that are called education as well. But from the side of the companies, how important is academic part in CV? I mean, when you see the candidate who have master or PhD and the one who has an online course from Harvard, and plus good experience in previous job. So how important and why is the difference between online courses and master and PhD?
The company does not care. The company cares what you can and cannot do.
But what about Korean investors?
Yeah, that's a different. But you cannot get a PhD anyway from online courses. Thank God.
Not yet, actually,
Thank
because
God.
we have a master and bachelor's programs already online.
I don't know, I'm not from industry side, but I think if we would conduct a research and we would, I think, see that there is a bias towards people that have 2 magic letters or 3 magic letters in their CV. That would be my just scientific guess.
Okay, more questions?
So normally they say, well, no education, well, whatever, we just care about your skills.
No, but I mean, okay, let me tell you how it works in practice. In practice, basically, we go back to your point about socializing. If you went to school with the right kids, it will always stay on your resume. And if you went to a good school, if you are from, I don't know, Harvard, from MIT, then, I mean, it will always be a bonus for you. But just a piece of paper with a formal bachelor degree does not mean much.
Same as just a piece of paper with a master degree or PhD degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even more. If you have just a piece of paper, it's much better to have several completed certificates plus piece of paper. It would be highly evaluated.
Okay, our discussion is ending. Yeah. Thank you for participating. Thank you for listening. Thanks for attention. Thank you.